Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode review video for last night's episode of Fear the Walking Dead. This is Season 3, Episode 4, entitled 100. 100. That probably looked like boobs more than anything, but nonetheless, welcome to another video, okay, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Now, with that being said, this episode I thought was actually really good. Now, a lot of people have mixed opinions on it because we didn't really get to see any of the core characters or anything like that, but I personally really liked this episode. I really enjoyed it. I thought that was a really good episode. Now, to get things right out of the way real quickly, guys, this will contain spoilers, okay? So just, if you haven't watched it, go watch it and come back, okay? With that being said, I did predictions for this episode back on Thursday. I'll leave a link in the description below if you guys want to check those out. But nonetheless, I basically predicted that this would be a Daniel-centric episode, along with Strand and along with the community there at the dam, which I'm totally 100% correct about. It was a Daniel-centric episode, and it had Strand in there at times as well, near the end, rather. And nonetheless, it was very Daniel-centric, basically explaining to us sort of where Daniel escaped, how he escaped the fire, and, he was burnt, and, all this, and basically how he survived. Now, to get things straight right at the get-go, he's definitely injured. Near the beginning of the episode, rather, and through the middle of it, his leg was burned, okay? Like, he was actually in the fire. He did make it out, and unfortunately, his leg suffered a great deal. He actually almost lost it. But he actually ended up running into a person, okay? I'm not too familiar with all the names, okay, of this episode, because they were all just very random people, okay? So just keep that in mind. So he ran into somebody, and basically this guy helped him, needed to get him water, which actually ended up turning out to be the water was being stolen from the dam, which ended up being an entire storyline in its own right in this episode. Nonetheless, though, the chances of that, ending up with Strand, just by chance of the water being stolen through a faucet at specifically 5 p.m., I believe it was. Again, very odd, very weird. I'm not sure of the chances of that, but I guess it is a small world, right? Now, at least, I mean, it's a small world before, but now it's just fucking tiny, Nonetheless, though, there was gruesome scenes in it where they were trying to help him by scraping off the burnt flesh off of his leg, and that was terrifying. That definitely hurt a lot, and we actually got to see the dead flesh being scraped off, which definitely would have sucked, to say the least. Nonetheless, though, we got to see a few really good and key points in Daniel's sort of life, where he eventually looked up at a zombie that was absolutely terrifying, and lightning actually struck down on the zombie's head as Daniel was praying. So again, we kind of take that as a sign. Again, a whole bunch of things happened in this episode. I thought that it was great. I really did. It really gave us some insight on, into what Daniel's about and what he stands for, and he really stands for survival at this point, you know what I mean? He does all these things in order to survive, and actually even in order to help people. It didn't really seem like it near the end of the episode, but he actually did end up turning it around. And he actually did end up helping people. Again, just like they helped him. Now, with that being said, they eventually led him, Daniel, to a community, which was at the dam where Dante, led the whole thing. He actually ended up there being just a worker, just a plain sewage cleaner-upper, a janitor, rather, whatever you want to call it, basically pulling dead zombies out of the sewers, to keep the water flowing and everything like that, so that they wouldn't get plugged up and, damage the dam or anything like that. So they started off, he started off getting there with that, and then he ended up basically stabbing the head of security, with a fork in the hand, because the head of security sort of confronted him, why didn't you stand up when he walked in the room, all this bullshit, right? All this bullshit that just doesn't actually mean anything, they just want to feel big around him and stuff like that. So they stab him in the hand. Dante realizes that he was actually an officer in like the Silver War. Yeah, that's how you pronounce it. The Civil War. And in El Salvador, and all his past basically is catching up with us. But it really helps him, you know? As bad as it was, it really helped him get through an altercation with Dante and you know, really helped him get the upper hand on the entire situation there at the dam. Otherwise, he probably would have been killed. There's a pretty good chance. Nonetheless, though, I mean, we eventually get to catch up with him, you know what I mean? This whole episode was very, very good and, you know, all of that stuff, but it's nothing really to sit here and talk about and really do an in-depth review on it, you know what I mean? It's just a basic, it's a general survival story, you know, from where he exited the flames, you know, where he actually ended up surviving on his own and then running into some people in order to, you know, keep surviving because he was injured. He can't just survive on his own when you're injured. You have to make friends, you know, that's the rules, right? Whether you like it or not, people are key to survival. It's as simple as that. Now they can also be the key to your ultimate death, which definitely would have occurred if he wasn't actually in that civil war like I was talking about and, you know, he didn't recognize his rank as an officer. I'm talking about Dante, by the way. Nonetheless, though, after he found out about that, he was basically, you know, appointed basically a pretty good spot in the entire community, you know? There's a lot of respect there between him and Dante and him. Dante really looked up to him, you know, as he was like sort of an elite, you know, to Dante now. Now, obviously, that could be a good sign. You know, he's pretty high up there in the community, but he actually started to turn his back on some friends. And not necessarily just because, you know, he wanted to be bad or, you know, he wanted to. Just because that if he didn't, you know, he probably would have died. He also would have made the girl that was helping them steal the water die as well. And, you know, it was a sacrifice that he had to make, which was basically torturing the guy that originally helped him, you know, saved his life. Back out there on the road, by basically ratting him out, you know, saying that he was the one that was stealing the water, and he ended up torturing him, trying to get him to speak about who was helping him, but he didn't really want him to speak, which was obviously the girl, you know, he didn't really want him to give him up or anything like that, which he didn't, but the girl ended up turning herself in to sort of protect him, and then they were all, at the end of the day, basically sentenced to an execution via being thrown over the bridge. All right, before we get there, though, we get the altercation with Strand, okay? So we see Daniel come up. We see Daniel pass Strand the water just like he did in the last episode. So all this episode up until now has taken place before last episode, if that makes sense. You know, before Strand was passed the water. So he sees Strand get there. He passes the water to Strand, says, you know, I told you I was going to be your guardian angel. And then Strand filled in the blank, basically saying, or my angel of death. And then after that, basically, he just tried to manipulate Daniel. That's what Strand does. You know, he tries to manipulate people into doing what he wants them to do. Which in Strand's case, at that particular moment in time, was to get him out of there. You know, survival. It all comes back to survival. He wants to get out of there because he knows that he knows that he will eventually be executed. You know, at the moment he's really just being tortured, if that makes sense. And he basically tries to manipulate Daniel, saying that Ophelia is indeed alive. She's held up at a hotel, and Daniel can basically see straight through him. Basically says, you know, you're a bastard. You're gonna rot here. You're gonna die here. Ophelia is dead, and so are you. So he leaves him there. He leaves Strand there. And this is basically where we get to catch up to the end of the episode. Again, this is a very brief review. I apologize. Nonetheless, though, I thought it was a really solid episode. I will go in more detail and depth, but I mean, it's all very basic. Like I said, it's a very basic survival story, and that's really all you can, you know, go on. It's based on one character the entire episode, which is Daniel. You know, I can't sit here and hop around from scene to scene, right? So, nonetheless, though, he gets ready to basically start executing people off of the dam. You know, how he throws them off the dam. Anyways, Daniel was there. You know, the girl was there that he didn't want executed. Anyway, he ended up executing one guy first. Not him necessarily, but he brought him to his death, and Dante threw him overboard. And then Daniel brought up the girl. Okay, the girl that he turned his back on, but didn't really want to because he wanted her to stay safe and out of it, and, you know, not let her get caught up on all of this because she wanted to help people. But she, like I said, she turned herself in, right? She wanted them to stop hurting her friend, right? So he brings her up, and just as he's about to do it, Dante says, you know, are you ready, Daniel? And you can see that he's just going through a whole ton of emotion. You know, he's just constantly thinking and thinking and thinking of, you know, probably ways out of this without anybody dying, and he can't come to any conclusion. And just as the guard is about to grab the girl and throw her over himself, he grabs his gun, shoots him dead right in the head, turns the gun on the other guard, shoots him dead as well, and then turns to Dante. And Dante basically explains, you know, I let you in to this community. I trusted you. And then he shoots Dante dead. So our first villain, you know, sort of the entire third season is already dead. Dante's done. You know, he's dead. Like I said, spoilers. I warned you. You know what I mean? So Daniel did end up saving the girl. He ended up saving the guy that originally helped him. Like, again, I'm not good on the names basis when these characters are, you know, first introduced. I apologize. I will get better, you know, with them if they are key characters in the series. We don't know at this point. They might just be, like, dead next episode. You know, who knows? But he basically turned over the gun to her and kneeled down and basically said, forgive me, giving her the option to either forgive him or to shoot him dead right there. She did end up forgiving him, you know, giving him her hand. So yeah, everybody's alive now. Daniel's alive, Strand's still alive, and he's out of the prison now because he was there about to be executed as well. So he ended up saving his life. Yeah, what else happens is totally up to the show and where it's kind of taken from here. Our group's going to meet up. Madison, you know, are we going to get to see Madison and Daniel sort of together again, you know, in a way, the group back together? Or what's going to happen with Daniel? Is he really going to go try to find Ophelia, or does he really believe that she is dead? I personally don't. And of course, we know that Ophelia was confronted by Jake at the end of season 2, or near the end of season 2, right? Jake, which is the guy on the farm, right? The good guy, the good brother. You know, every now and then, you know, I kind of have these theories about how he's just playing all of us, right? But I totally could be wrong. Nonetheless, though, yeah, I think ultimately it'll probably lead the group back together. And again, that's just, it's kind of destiny. It's kind of fate in a way, you know, that the groups just keep getting tied back together. Madison, Strand, Daniel, you know, Ophelia, of course, will probably be around here shortly. Whether or not she'll still be alive, we have no idea, you know? We have no idea. Hopefully they reintroduce her soon, though, because I feel like a lot of people, if they don't really pay attention, they'll probably forget about her character. And that's not going to be good. So, because like I said, she's not, you know, she wasn't really a main core character to the story. So it's very easy to, you know, sort of lose track of where her character belongs. You know what I mean? And even forget her, right? So anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. I thought that it was a really great episode. Nonetheless, and I will see you guys on the next video. Hopefully you guys will enjoy my live streams that I'm streaming later, actually today, and tomorrow, and the next day, and probably the day after that. Nonetheless, everybody, thank you all so much for watching. Make sure you guys tune back in on Thursday for my episode prediction video for this week's up-and-coming episode of Fear the Walking Dead. This will be Season 3, Episode 5, entitled Burning in Water, Drowning in Flame. Interesting, guys. All right, I'll see you guys then. Take care, everybody. Bye.